Hey, raise your hand if you've ever heard the expression a baby boomer. Okay, some of you baby boomers didn't even know that's what we've been calling you, right? How many of you heard the expression Generation X? Okay, how about the expression the Millennials? Okay, pretty good, but I noticed the hands started disappearing a little bit. We're going to talk a little bit about the Millennials, and we just happen to have a sampling of 4 of them for today. We're going to start all the way at the far end. I've asked each one of the panelists if they would introduce themselves.
My name's Cliff Sabro, and I'm a millennial.
Thought we were doing our age and where we were from, too.
I'm from Visalia, California, 27 years old. Liar.
I'm Tyler Kirkpatrick. I'm 22, born and raised in Las Vegas, Nevada, and I am a millennial.
I'm Wesley Walker. Cliff is actually 34, I think, somewhere in there.
32.
I'm 28.
Really? I thought you were older than me.
No.
Oh.
Millennials still stay on top. Yeah, I know.
What'd you
It's my
say?
turn now. It's the me generation. It's
Yes.
about me.
Go you. Go you.
I'm Wesley Walker from Nashville, Tennessee. I'm a millennial, 28 years old.
I think your mic cut out. I think all of our... Did his mic cut out?
Let's try to stay on subject.
We just turned yours off. That's exactly.
It's your turn, Caleb.
Are you done?
Yeah, that was
I can
it.
talk now? My name's Caleb O'Hara. I am a millennial. I'm from Ripon, California. California born and raised. Woo! 7 years in Idaho back here.
I think my mic's dead.
Is your mic dead? Oh, give me a home. We need a battery. Is it?
Mine's on.
Oh,
The
just
light's
talk
not
louder.
working.
I'll switch your battery out. I'm from Ripon, California. Where was I at? I'm a millennial.
And he is a millennial. That's exactly right. They represent what is estimated to be 80 million Americans, the millennials. We think of them, at least I do, as those young folks that should be my children, because that's
I could be your child.
all of my.
Grandchild.
No, you would not be my. You are not my children because you would
He
be
could
better
be.
behaved than you are if you were. We wanted to share, and I really am going to ask these guys to share, not only from their perspective as preachers and as those who are in full-time ministry, but as those guys who have raised in this generation, what it means to be a millennial and how millennials are viewing the world in which they live, and certainly it is the filter by which they are looking at the church and spiritual matters, and certainly Jesus Christ too. So we're going to ask.
We have short attention spans too. Are you done?
Yeah, no. But enough. Caleb says enough about me. Let's talk about me. They are called the me generation. They're called the Y generation. I think they might be called the why generation. I don't know. They are an interesting group, and we've got some questions here. And I didn't get the iPad, so I'm going to go with the questions that I have been given here. And that
Where'd the
I have
iPad
prepared.
go?
Huh?
Where'd the iPad go?
Well, it didn't.
Table over there.
It's over there, so that's
It's coming.
That's all right.
He'll bring it up. Go, but you can start.
As you guys understand it, let's just start over here with Cliff. Cliff, how do you understand, not only as one of them, but more importantly as kind of a student of millennials, describe the millennial individual for us?
I think the millennial individual has a tendency to want to rebel against the norms of the past, gets angry at some of the inconsistencies, and sees problems in our society and wants to fix them, but thinks that maybe the old ways of doing things aren't that effective.
Okay, how would you differentiate that from maybe the generation before that also rebelled against their parents because the generation before didn't know what to do? I mean, what is distinctively different in your mind between, if you will, the rebellion, so-called or quote-unquote, of the millennials versus the rebellion of maybe a previous generation?
I don't know. I think it's tendency. All generations have a tendency to rebel, but Wesley looked like he had insight.
Okay, Wesley?
Wesley,
Our
Wesley,
expert on rebellion.
Yes.
Wesley had an insight. This is new. We better listen.
I don't know if it's an insight. I'll say it first, and they can decide if it's insight. I think you've got to tie millennials and postmodern ideas all together. So we've got a generation that is rebelling against authority, but at the same time, I think maybe different from previous generations, still, in terms of like God and whatnot, still likes the idea of spiritual things. They want to have some sort of grander meaning, some grander thing in life, and even some grander authority. in life. But they want to be able to, or we, I guess I'm not the same problem myself, want to be able to filter that through my own thinking and kind of make a God in an image that I appreciate and like. So I might serve a God or somebody in authority, but I'm going to do that through an image that I will have in the first place. So.
I might put one little different spin on this. I don't necessarily see millennials as being rebellious against authority. I mean, they're rebellious. All generations are rebellious. But my general experience has been that they really feel that things could be better, and they don't like the fact that they see others as being okay with being stagnant. And so it's not so much that they're rebelling against authority per se, they're rebelling against what they're seeing the other or what they're perceiving they're seeing the other generation doing. They're so, I don't know if I would necessarily...
For the sake of rebelling.
Yeah, which I see the
Well, maybe
I see the
this would be a
hippies
better.
like,
Maybe this would be
we're too loud, you gotta...
Instead of describing the millennial, how does
Too loud, too quiet,
Yeah,
too loud, too quiet.
how does the millennial view, if you will, then the generation before it? I mean, if it's not, it may not be a rebellion, but how do they view the previous generation?
Well, hippies were weird. Like Ron.
I
Adam's
was just
in the
going
back.
to say, where's poor Ron back there? Well, I don't know. I wasn't a hippie, so I don't know. My parents wouldn't let me go out and be a hippie, or for that matter, anything else fun. But I mean, how do they view them as ignorant versus a millennial being intellectually superior? Do they backwoods, quote unquote, traditional? How do you see any of you guys?
I don't really have a picture of maybe what our entire world or country's been in that regard. But what I see in the church that has happened is you had maybe 2 generations ago where there was most of our lectureships, gospel meetings was all about certain teachings and moral issues and about here's the church stance on a particular subject. And then I think the generation before ours saw through some false ideas and maybe some binding where God is not bound. So they rebelled to this wacky extreme of liberalism. And what I see from a lot of my millennial peers is not so much a rebellion against, for the sake of rebellion.
Yeah.
Hey, we saw the extremes. We saw the ultra binding where God is not bound. If you don't believe with us, you must be wrong mentality. And then we see how maybe our parents' generation went crazy out here, liberal, reject everything. There is no God, there is no truth. And now what I see a lot is just a search for reality, a search for consistency and honesty when it comes to following God and His Word. So can I speak to what the hippie or 60 generation, all that? I don't know about that, but I can speak to what I see.
To echo also what Cliff had said in that, I think it's not only that extreme like the liberal side, it's the other two. We see both extremes where we're sitting there with problems that have came up, and you have the legalistic side of it too that people have reached out to in regards to that.
Well, yeah, they find comfort in it.
I think it's probably not authority, it's inconsistency.
Yeah.
And once they find an inconsistency, there's a mindset to kind of throw away everything. This isn't consistent, so nothing can be consistent. But you also, I think, in the other extreme, you'll find some thoughtful ones who, if they find somebody who they feel is being consistent, they feel is being honest with even things like the Bible, whatever issue it might be, they seem, at least in my mind, what I do, I seem to kind of validate toward or gravitate towards them. Because I see somebody who's authentic and won't let the chips lay where they will, which I think is a spot for the church to step in here. If we just learn to be honest and genuine, we're going to a lot more respect than simply saying
with that
this is
with
what's
that
been
in mind, who are the millennialists listening to? I know we call them the me generation, and everything's about self-exploration, and I'm the origin of truth.
Spiritually speaking, they're listening to radio, they're listening to television. I mean, if you look at the surveys of where they're getting information, it's not they went to a good Bible class. They want to be spiritual, but want that information not to come from the Bible. They want the information to come from, it comes from their surroundings, their peers who also know the Bible. One guy put it that our generation is here's some software agreements where you click, I agree. Did you read this? I agree. Everybody says, I read it and I agree, but no one actually read the software agreement. That's how they are with the Bible. I agree with the Bible, and they click it. They have no idea what it says. What they mean is I agree with what popular culture has determined is who Jesus is, and I agree with that and follow that. So I think we got that kind of mindset that it's not the preacher they're going to, and it's not these things. It's just kind of the world around them, which cause all sort of issues.
I think this dovetails with your other question, which is I think one of the big differentiations is hippieism didn't work. It didn't work.
Sure.
It didn't produce what they said it was going to produce. And I think our generation, the big thing is give us something practical. We want it to work. We want to see something happen. And a lot of times their experience with religion, quote unquote, it didn't work in their lives, or so they thought. And so they started reaching out and looking for other things. And so, as Wesley said, millennials, they're not going to the traditional sources to get their spirituality. They're not going, it used to be if you had a spiritual question, you'd go find the local clergyman and ask him. They're not doing that. They're going to these different avenues. They're searching other medias and they're reaching out. They want, in a way I put it, they want everything unfiltered. In fact, if you look at one of the big differences right now is that Facebook has become the old people's thing. And which it's bad because I prefer
I don't have a
Facebook over the
Facebook
rest
page
of it.
if that's what you're saying.
Yeah, well,
Okay.
and all of the younger generation, they're all getting on Reddit and all these other things. And the reason being is because it's unfiltered. They want to be able to see everything. And, those that don't know about Facebook, it's starting to filter all kinds of stuff. And so depending on what you like and what you comment on, you're getting different things. They want everything unfiltered. They say, I want to be able to go find it. I want to be able to look at it myself. And they're looking at all these different avenues trying to find information.
Okay, so does that, because I know that of the millennials, it's said that they're typically speaking, or generally speaking, they're not very trusting. Is that part of it is we need transparency? I mean, we need transparency to make up our own mind. The Bible maybe has been advanced in a way that's hidden. In other words, because the Bible said so becomes the curtain, and the generation before has said, ignore the man behind the curtain, and they're like, it's time we bring the curtain down. I mean, is that the millennial
I think
perspective?
2008, President Obama, when he ran as a candidate, ran in 2008 as this transparent, different from everybody else, which was, let's call politics what they pander for votes. He's pandering for young votes. He's going to be a president who's going to be open. That's kind of this kind of buzzword that they like. Now, whether you like him or not like him, he hasn't been as open as he said he was going to be. But the point is that he was able to get young people to vote for him because they were convinced that he was going to be open in a way that maybe past presidents hadn't been. So there's this idea of give us the facts, don't try to hide us. I guess sometimes even in preaching and teaching, we can try to save people from what the Bible says, almost like a Pharisee building this fence around the command of God and building these new rules, because if we just open up the Bible and say, this is as far as it goes, they might do something we're not comfortable with. So there's this idea of, okay, the Bible might say this, but let me build a hedge to make sure you don't even get close to violating that. And so I think that can be part of it.
I want to come back.